Hello, everybody. This is Julissa. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much, everybody, who's listening right now in the podcast. Today is Monday, July 13, 2026. I'm here to speak about to apologize. I just noticed I'm actually here to speak about the Laci Peterson case. And just as I'm getting myself ready to start this podcast, something is being changed right now regarding this case. But I'm talking about apparently the new evidence about that is probably gonna let, well, that's what they're saying, that's gonna free Scott Peterson. And I'm gonna give you a review about this case in case you don't remember. But Laci Peterson was the woman who went missing on Christmas Eve in 2002 in Modesto, California, I believe. She was 8 months pregnant, and then her husband was arrested and convicted of her murder, and he was actually having an affair. But right now, it's been so many years, right? Right now, they're saying that there's a new evidence that could potentially free Scott from prison, right? Who has been in prison for over 20 years, I believe, also. So that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about before I continue. I want to say thank you guys so much, everybody who's listening right now using Spotify. Don't forget to follow JulissaDesigns podcast on Spotify. It helps me as a creator. And of course, thank you so much, everybody who's watching this video right now on YouTube. Thank you so much, everybody, for liking and subscribing. And, if you subscribe also every time I make a new episode, you will get a notification as well. And I do, as you can see here, this is from the window. That's why I was like, what kind of what is the light effect is happening here in my hair? But it's the almost sunset here in Connecticut on Monday, July 13th. So that's why you see there. I'm gonna see if I can do this better closer. But yeah, this case, I remember researching about this case years ago, obviously, when it happened. I remember seeing her face. It's Christmas Eve, or the day of Christmas, right? On Christmas Day in 2002, and you see that they're looking for a pregnant woman who went out for a walk and never returned. And you're like, how can this even be possible, right? And I'm not going to talk to you guys about all the evidence that was there and that linked Scott Peterson. I'm going to talk to you guys about um how crazy it is for anybody to think that he's not connected to what happened to her, right? Without even looking at evidence, just thinking about life. And their first baby, she's 8 months pregnant, right? Usually, her first baby, they make people go on bed rest. It's Christmas Eve, right? Like, what do you mean? This is what he said. He was gonna go out to the boat that day. This is their first baby. She's 8 months pregnant, and he's just gonna be so careless, like, well, I'm off today, so I'm gonna go and spend time on the boat on Christmas Eve. Like, you would think, you know, especially if you're off that day, which a lot of people would take like the whole week of Christmas off and all of that. Why not spend it like with your wife that's 8 months pregnant, your first baby? Even just by even looking at that, you know that something is fishy here. Forget about all the evidence that they found connecting him to everything. Forget about the affair that he was having. Just thinking about those things, like, who does that, right? Who will just be like, you know, go do your thing, I'm gonna go do my other thing. It shows a lack of carelessness in my opinion. That's how I look at it. But let me give you a review of who Laci Peterson was, right? She was born on May 4th, 1975, and this case happened on December 24, 2002. The 27-year-old Laci Denise Peterson disappeared from her home in Modesto, California, while she was 8 months pregnant with her first child. Her disappearance prompted a large-scale search and drew national media attention. In April 2003, the remains of Peterson and her unborn son, whom she and her husband planned to name Connor, were found along the shoreline of San Francisco Bay. I remember also that day when they say, I remember just seeing the breaking news and they're like a torso was found. And you follow missing cases, right? You're like, oh, could this be this person? How could this be Laci that they found it? And after the testing, they said, it was confirmed that it was her and the unborn baby. It's just, it's so sad, right? It's so sad that everything that happened to her. Also, in this case, I remember looking at photos of her going to holiday parties, and Scott was not with her. She went by herself, right? And the reason that I mentioned that, you're talking about the firstborn in a family, in a new couple, right? Their first child, and you would think there's such an excitement for what's to come in their life, right? There should be such an excitement, such a like, um, their first experience with this and things like that, and she's just basically, kind of running the show on her own. I also remember her mom saying how she noticed that Scott would never touch her belly to feel the baby inside, right? And she said that's kind of weird. And I understand. I get that there are a lot of people who believe that he's 100% innocent. There's a whole innocent organization that is trying to fight for him and all of that. But just looking at even like what I'm talking about, just my opinion about this is a this is a couple that is expecting their first baby. It's Christmas Eve, right? And she's 8 months pregnant, which I do believe by that time frame, especially a new mom, they recommend people to rest, right? And he's just gonna go and do his thing and let her you know, do his thing because he gotta do his thing first, right? There's such a carelessness just to even that, not even looking at evidence affair or nothing like that. Just think about that. There's photos of her, the last photos of her alive were photos taken of her at holiday parties that she had to go on her own. Then you have the mom saying, right? Her mom saying that he will never like to touch the belly to feel the baby, their firstborn, because he doesn't like doing that. Like what? That says everything. Like we don't even need to look at the evidence. That tells you everything right there, right? Because I don't know, maybe I do have a different type of perception when it comes to married couple expecting their first baby, right? Especially if they're still together, obviously, right? So it's just very sad everything that happened to her. Like I said, their remains were found in 2003 in April, and then now, there's a whole new series about this case. He's been in prison, convicted for 20 years, but now they have new evidence saying that he might be released or his conviction might be overturned. So let me read to you guys a little bit about that. It says here, bombshell new documentary reveals crucial, never before seen evidence that could clear infamous wife killer Scott Peterson more than 2 decades after his conviction. Okay. Also, by the way, parenthesis here. By the way, this man was also found with a new hair color. That's how he got arrested. I remember him being right at the border of Mexico, new hair color, and a bag full of cash or something like this. So it says here, bombshell, new documentary reveal crucial never before seen evidence that could clear infamous wife killer Scott Peterson more than 2 decades after his conviction. Peterson, who's now 53, has been serving a life sentence in California since a jury found him guilty of murdering his pregnant wife Laci and their unborn son Connor on Christmas Eve 2002. A conviction based partly on how he got rid of his wife's body aboard his fishing boat. It says here that the new evidence, well, they're gonna explain all of this in a new documentary that's being released. It's some type of they have the evidence is some type of alleged handwritten notes from Laci and expert opinions say that it seriously throw that damning scenario into doubt. Okay. So like I said, there are people who are really strongly believe that this man is innocent. This man that during the vigil trying to bring Laci back home was on the phone with his mistress, right? Um saying how he was in Paris or something like this. He was traveling for work. He was actually in the vigil that the town did to help bring Laci back, right? To create awareness. So it's just very crazy because they say no, this is they call it the innocent whatever organization thing, right? They should call it the sorry organization because I do understand that there are a lot of people who are after when they realize what was their life destiny is going to be after they get convicted and found guilty because there's overwhelming evidence. They of course they feel sorry that everything that they did, but um maybe a lot of them, don't have the pride in them would never make them confess to it. So they're just sorry that now they have to live a life like that, right? So they're gonna, keep pushing to try to get out of jail basically. But there are everything that you do has a consequence. And that's what he get from doing that, spending life in prison. And it's just crazy. I never, when I look at this case early on, right? Like I said, this case is from 2002. When I looked at this case, I never thought 1 second that he was innocent. I never thought 1 second. And this is probably even learning about Amber Frey before the mistress, even before learning about her because of everything that I said in the beginning, right? I just don't know. I don't see that, right? Because I'm trying to picture if a couple that's expecting their first child, right? And it's Christmas Eve, and people are off from work. Obviously, your wife is 8 months pregnant. She's probably on bed rest or trying to take things, light and trying to take things easy. And you're just gonna go to the ball. Like it's not a regular day that you're off. It's actually a holiday, right? Christmas Eve. Instead of just spending that time together, why go off and do that? And why you know, all of that, not even wanting to touch the baby, that said a lot, right? And I feel like with this case, the Laci Peterson case, it, there's other cases that we kind of know immediately, excuse me, we immediately kind of know when we hear about another, missing wife. We always say, who's the lady that's with the guy now, with the married guy, because it has happened many times, right? We can talk about Shannon Watts here, a more recent case, right? These men, when they have an affair, and they could get like an ultimatum from the mistress, or they could get a type of, I come to perhaps, the end of this road. I don't want to continue with this life. And, so they want to just run off with the mistress. And in order to do that, instead of just separating like a lot of people do, right, or getting a divorce, they just commit murder. And that's just, I think that's just exactly what happened here. I remember they also say, their neighbors across the street got robbed like a week before that happened. That also points to him, right? Wouldn't you think? You're telling me, I go back again, your wife is expecting your firstborn, right? It's your day off from work, it's Christmas Eve. There's a known burglary that happened right across the street from your house. And instead of saying, you know, um, I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna do the boat another day, maybe when she's with her mom or with her family. This carelessness shows that he is responsible, right? Because of all of that. If anything, if there was a burglary before, a week before she went missing, right? Um, they they probably knew about it, right? Because it happened in the neighborhood. Why not be more, on high alert and be like, I'm not leaving you here by yourself, right? I'm not. You're not gonna go walking by yourself again. Well, if something's shady is happening, I'm off today from work. I'm gonna go on a walk with you, and then we'll plan our day after that or something like this. I know they were planning to have Christmas Eve after with her mom and the family. So even that says everything, right? Let me see. He says here the newly um this is more talking about there's a new documentary that's gonna be released about this. So they're saying that it would have been impossible for him to dispose of the body without any witnesses in broad daylight or leaving significant DNA evidence. But, another case is the Jennifer Doulos case, right? And I've spoken about that many times, right? I don't understand to this day the Jennifer Doulos case that happened here in New Canaan. How the Fotis Dulo transferred that body to a different car on a very busy street in New Canaan in the morning where you have people walking around the Waveney Park, and then you have a lot of traffic. People is on a business day, right? People going to work, going to school, people going around doing their morning routine, and no witnesses, nobody saw anything. Another one that had a mistress, right? Another one that, Fotis Dulos, another one that had a mistress. So they're saying, there was no way that he could dispose the body without any witnesses in broad daylight. That's what they're saying about Scott Peterson, this new evidence. Well, it has happened before, and it has happened after that too, right? So they're saying that the footage that I believe they showed during trial way a dummy meant to replicate Laci's body, causing the tiny vessel to capsize. I don't want to get into all the details about that. Um, they already went through trial for this 20 years ago, so also, like, I believe there was also mentioned that his father-in-law, Lacey's stepdad, didn't know that Scott had purchased the boat. I believe he was all premeditated. He planned all this thing. He planned it all. He knew her routine that she was gonna go. He goes for a walk in the morning. He planned the whole thing. And the reason that I say that is because he got the boat like a day before, something like this. He got the boat. He was off from work because Christmas Eve. He knew she was gonna go for a walk. Right? You're telling me that this man expecting his first child, aware that there's been a burglary across the street from where he lives, he was gonna be okay letting her walk again, or like on her own, a week after that burglary? Like, man, you could wait like a month, or let's just go on a walk together because I'm off from work today, right? Something like this. He's just gonna be fine with all of that. So premeditated. All of this so premeditated. He was having an affair, right? And the reason that I say also that he premeditated all of this, because during the vigil, what I was saying earlier that they did for Lacey in the town, he's on the phone with the mistress Amber Frey, talking to her, saying, "Do you hear that? I'm in Paris right now," something like this. He was saying, from what I remember from this case, and he was actually there in the middle of this vigil that was created by the town to help find Lacey. It's just so crazy. Um, it's so crazy. Now they're saying that the new written evidence is that shows that Lacey was aware that he had bought the boat Let me see. This man, I'm sure he went to that marina many times before. He knew, he probably knew that it wasn't going to be that busy. People are dealing with their Christmas things, cooking, Christmas Eve, cooking, all of that. People are shopping a lot of, right? What's the most busy places during Christmas Eve? It's the mall, right? The supermarket. Not a lot of people out in the mall, right? Especially, during December weather, right? So all premeditated, all planned out. It's so crazy, but we'll see what comes out of this. Um, we'll see what comes out of this, meaning that it looks to me like he has a lot of people backing him up. Um, there is this thing that people believe that sometimes they cannot believe that somebody can be so evil, right? Because maybe the way that a person looks and all of that, but if there's so much evidence that tells you without any doubt that this man did this, right? It's just that like I always say, love can never take away knowledge. You can like the person so much, but deep down, yeah, they do have a problem, right? There is a possibility that he did this, right? Yeah, he was 100% responsible. He wanted a new life with Amber Frey, right? He wanted to get away from this marriage, and he knew probably the only way to do that was to do what he did, right? And now that he was convicted, been in jail for 20 years, now people are still thinking, maybe because they see a change in him, people do learn their lesson. A lot of people do learn their lesson, right? After realizing this is their life now, it's going to be for the rest of their life. And just because they learn from being in jail doesn't mean that they're ready to confess to anything, right? Um, because they have so many people that they have lied to, including probably family, right? Doesn't mean that they're ready to come out and confess it, but if they can convince other people, new eyes, new people that will look at his case, if they can convince them to fight for them, then they're going to take it and they're going to see what happens, right? It says the comments, people are going crazy in the comments. It says here, somebody said, I remember that the trial, I was not entirely convinced that he was guilty. The conviction was entirely based on circumstantial evidence, primarily based on his demeanor and behavior after she went missing, which means if he acted different from most people expected to be considered evidence of guilt. There was no direct physical or forensic evidence linking Scott to the crime. But not every, conviction has direct evidence, obviously. Um, there's not direct. In the past, they used to say if there's no body, right, there can never be a conviction. But when there's so much evidence, right? And then somebody said, except the bodies of his wife and baby were found in the same area he took his boat out on the day that he went fishing, and the same day she went missing. Only 2 weeks after the two people he had lost his wife. And this would be his first holiday without her. And sure enough, it will be. He also bought that boat right after telling those people he had lost his wife. Um, hmm, yeah. Somebody said, if he was not involved in this, right? Think about it. He had this boat that he just bought, and the bodies were found in the marina, right? Um, Now we know like he had a vessel to go there, right? And that's what he said he was going to do that same morning. So I think these people are wasting time trying to find him innocent just because they probably feel sorry that this is his life sentence. But they might say, no, Scott is a changed man, all of that. Oh, I'm sure once he realized this is his new life and he spent for 20 years, of course, it's going to be a change in that people might see. Let me see what else I can read here. Somebody said it's newly manufactured evidence. Some people are saying. And somebody said never before seen evidence. Yeah, that's very. I was thinking about the same thing. This case is from 2002, and now they're like they found a note. How can they miss that in the beginning? I do understand that detective and forensic and all of that. Everybody can make a mistake, right? But like usually they don't do these searches by themselves, right? So it's just very crazy, guys. Let me know, guys, what you think about this. Like I said, if there's any update about this case, I'll definitely come and do another episode. Thank you guys so much for coming to the channel. Thank you to everybody who's listening in the podcast. Have a good day. God bless. Everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day, everybody. God bless.